Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, and we are in that kind of interesting, nebulous season of our nation's existence where you have a Congress, you don't yet have a president, you're switching things over, confirmation hearings are going on. What does it all look like? How do you exist in this state? What does the Constitution have to say about all this? Let's talk to somebody who knows. In fact, she's a senior legal fellow at the Edwin Meese Center at the Heritage Foundation. The Legal and Judicial Studies is the Edwin Meese III Center there. And Sarah Parshall-Perry rejoins us. Hi, Sarah. Happy New Year. It's good to see you.
Thank you. You as well. And Happy New Year to you.
And I'm sorry that we missed each other at the holiday gathering in Manhattan. We'll make a point to do that next year. This is a weird few days, is it not, that you got confirmation hearings going on and you've got a new Congress seated, which I hope has a lot to do in their first 100 days or so. But we're not yet, the president gets sworn in just a few days. What is the governing thought about, like, even from our enemies or from people outside? Are we vulnerable during this time? How does this work from a government standpoint?
Well, it depends ultimately on how quickly things get done. We really want to see these cabinet nominees get confirmed as quickly as possible. In his last term, his set of cabinet appointees, and these are all top-level positions, they're secretaries, not even deputy or assistant secretaries, but all top-level secretaries. His last cabinet was not fully confirmed until the end of April, which of course presented some difficulty because you've got everything from FBI background checks to paperwork to financial disclosures, and then that has to take place for the deputies, for the assistants, and all the way down the food chain into the GS service of government. And we're really hoping that these nominees, and there are quite a number of hearings that are going to be held very, very soon, these nominees are actually going to be approved very quickly, going to be moved through the process, and that Democrats don't attempt to stonewall in an attempt to essentially ride bureaucratic coattails of the outgoing Biden administration and make life difficult for the incoming president. Much of what he wants to do through these cabinet secretaries involves national security, tariffs, and border security. So these are issues that are going to be handled on the ground level through these cabinet secretaries, all the more reason for them to get confirmed quickly.
So and I know that there was some discussion about this before it happened, but Harry Reid kind of blew up the filibuster on certain levels of nominations. I don't think the average American knows really how any of that works. What is the power of the minority to stop or to delay this? And do you anticipate from the makeup, because it's a closely divided, both bodies are closely divided, do they have the power to slow it down, or is this something that Republicans can just get done and be done with it?
Well, hopefully the ideal scenario and the more likely than not scenario is that the Republicans are going to be able to get the nominees confirmed that they want. It's just going to take a longer period of time. For example, Pam Bondi for Attorney General has already been slated for not one, but 2 hearings. Many of these hearings have already been postponed by a couple of days or a few weeks based on the fact that some of these financial disclosures, the background checks, have not yet been completed. It makes you wonder whether or not there's stonewalling going on at the DOJ not to actually get these background checks done quickly. But Republicans, for all intents and purposes, are going to be able to overcome any filibuster attempt by the Democrats. It's a good sign that there are slim majorities for the GOP in the House and the Senate, but specifically so with regard to these nominees in the Senate. We're looking at enough of a cushion to be able to vote these candidates through, unless, of course, there is some unforeseen objection from some of these newly minted senators that have come in for the 119th, some of whom have yet to sort of experience what the conservative bona fides are for President Trump and what he wants to do for the country.
Well, so let's talk about that for a second. On legislation, it's a 2/3 hurdle that you have to get over. What is it on nominations?
Nominations require unanimity, I believe, of all of the GOP senators to be able to overcome any objections that are anticipated by the Democrats.
So it's a 51-49 vote.
Right.
That's all they have to hit.
Right. That's exactly it. So that indicates to me that we're in a good position going forward because we do have a margin of error of a few votes one way or another. So in anticipation that some GOP bureaucratic stalwarts who want business as usual are going to put up a fight for some of these more unconventional nominees like Pete Hegseth, for example, there are a few sort of wiggle room votes either way. But again, this goes to the question of whether or not the vision for the country that we believe all the voters voted for on November 5th of last year ultimately is going to be executed through these cabinet secretaries. And it was very clear that the response from the voters was they were tired of business as usual, whether that's on the GOP or the Democratic side.
So I've heard a couple of different theories about this, even from within the heritage ranks themselves, and that is that if for whatever reason they do hit a stall, and I'm hoping that Thune can whip the votes and make it happen. If you're Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski, you don't have a lot to lose by just getting people confirmed and getting government working. Like that's not a big downside even to a more progressive base if you're a Republican in a really rough area. But I don't think there's a lot of those. That's my point. Most of the Northeast Trump went stronger in every county across the country. 3,800 counties, he increased his vote totals in all of those. And Kamala, there wasn't one county nationwide that Kamala took that Joe didn't. Yeah. So in terms of having a strong footing, even Murkowski and Collins should be willing to play ball here. But in the event that they hit upon someone that they are questionable on, Kash Patel or Pete Hegseth or whoever, Bondi, what is the means by which, if needed, Trump could move the houses to be out of session and then make all recess appointments? Because I've heard that it has to be done in a certain way, but Speaker Johnson's going to be on board. So I'm not too worried about the pieces, but how does it work mechanically?
Well, mechanically, under the appointments clause, it is possible that the president has the authority to essentially direct the Senate to go out for recess. And then the Senate, before leaving, would actually direct the House to go out for recess. So recess appointments are technically, mechanically constitutional. They have not been undertaken in recent history. And it is slightly problematic from the standpoint that based on what we know as to how this would work mechanically, those individuals who may be recess appointed would have to serve without a salary. Now, I know no one goes into government service thinking that they're going to make quite a bit of money, but particularly so for these individuals, listen, they may, for the future of the nation, for the sake of getting business underway, many of these individuals, I give you individuals like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, obviously, who are going to be at Doge, those individuals don't need a government salary. They are more keen to getting the work underway. And so that would be something these cabinet
I would kind of like to see both of them step up and say, as the head of Doge, voluntarily, we're not going to do it. Trump did it for his first term. She's with the Heritage Foundation. She's a senior legal fellow at the Edwin Meese III Legal Center there. And we're coming back to Times Square.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.